Welcome to Building the Future. My name is Michael Kirsch.
I'm Ouyang Teng.
And we here at LaRouche PAC have been working now since August to bring to you a solution out of the present crisis. A crisis which is global in its extent and is in fact the collapse of a system internationally, the collapse of an old, dying system, and a system which goes beyond the monetary system, but is in fact a complete cultural system that has now shown itself as doomed. Now we here are sitting fairly pretty as we've been putting forward a solution, and it happens to be, in fact, the only solution on the table.
Right. As the point was made at some of these weekend conferences last week, it's not as if we're sitting out here debating a number of proposals for overcoming this crisis. It's not as if this is a solution. It really is the solution. The entire package of what LaRouche has put forward, beginning with the ouster of Obama, immediately followed by the implementation of Glass-Steagall, and then really consecrated by the launching of projects with the keystone of NAWAPA as the basis of a global physical economic recovery. It's the solution.
And when you're faced with your congressman that seems to be acting like a complete jackass, and generally elected officials that are seeming to have no idea how to respond to anything. In fact, there are no solutions being debated. There are solutions being avoided. And everything that's being discussed that you can experience as a constituent of an elected government is really all the result right now of the fact that when you're in a collapse of an entire system, this present international monetary system, the effects that you're experiencing are not local. And how you respond to that kind of collapse is a new idea. And that is what we have been presenting here, as you've said, on a global level. This is a hemispheric collaboration between Canada and Mexico. This is an intercontinental collaboration between the United States, Russia, China, India, development projects for Africa, in complete, in fact, integration between North and South America with a plan we've shown on this website for a super project for water development and rail with South America. And in these times, a new idea is what has to be put forward. And this is what we've been doing. And over the past few months since August, this idea has now locked into a certain layer of the United States population. And we've succeeded to a certain extent in, I could say, getting this project now to a phase where we're ready to move it to the next step.
It's sort of like waking a sleeping giant. Instead of for wartime, for peacetime. And it's clear that there's a huge, almost simmering desire for optimism. I mean, there's clearly a lot of rage. We've seen the rage. But the optimism that's there and the ability to actually bring it to fruition is something that we've seen in the case of a number of the interviews that we've put up on the website of a whole array of specialists who are ready and waiting to actually contribute something to the country and to the world.
Yeah, we would like to invite and extend the invitation to you today to join us in putting forward this solution through acting here in the United States, leading the world in this global recovery, the new idea that has to supersede this dying system. And the best way to do that for you, to get caught up to speed, that since August we've launched this project, and as you just referenced, in fact, there's 20 interviews of this kind where you can see this desire amongst any of these people. We have the interviews broken up into fairly 5 categories. If you look at NAWAPA, massive amount of tunnels, reservoir sites that have to be prepared, massive amounts of dams, pumping stations, power generation stations, siphons. All of these fall into essentially the implementation category. And if you look there, we have a lot of interviews with people on the geological nature of these tunnels. Just posted, Lin Yang Zhang goes into depth into that area. Dam building, waterway management, the canals. Take a look at the Dakota Canal video to look at how this would transform this entire region. Also, the interviews with Dr. Chang from California on the massive water projects he's been involved in. All of these things intersect that aspect of the project. If you also look at, we have people discussing machine tools. Machinist Keith Smith, you look at this and you really see not only are the, as he says, the average age of the working class machinist is 50 to 60. Mm-hmm. But you can see these guys would be ready to go and volunteer to train another generation in this program. Also, general construction management, land management, city developing, rail, logistical support, and then the question of once the system's built, how we're going to manage the water, use the water, soil studies, irrigation. All of these aspects are in depth and really demonstrate that kind of, I think, desire that you mentioned.
Not to mention nuclear. We certainly have the monopoly on not only the entire historical experience of nuclear power development in the United States and its takedown, but also the needed frontier technologies, in particular the breeder reactors that can be used, that must be used as part of a breakthrough science driver program, and specifically as part of NAWAPA, as part of a generalized infrastructure development program. You know, this is absolutely going to be one of the baseline technologies for that, and we've got the whole story.
And DeWitt Moss has made that point, but also Dr. Alan Salzberg, his presentation at the Kennewick conference, goes through the Hitachi reactor they have, which would serve the United States for 300 to 500 years. These are 400 megawatt modular reactors.
Right.
So also in the past, just last week, we've had a couple of conferences which now have taken these 20 experts, and a lot of them convene to now discuss this project more in depth. So not only has this project shown that it has a clear constituency that wants to do it, lights up over all the aspects, doing a great project again, which we have not done, and I will say have not done since the landing on the moon in this country. And this project obviously shows that's clear, that's a success. And coming out of these conferences, we've really now shown that this project would be ready to go. It's feasible, and I guess we could say that we've come to the successful end of phase 1 of this program here that we've been discussing with you over the last 6 weeks.
That's right. So now phase 1 complete and continuing in certain respects. Obviously, the interviews will continue to come in. We're continuing to build a groundswell of support around the country. But what's phase 2?
Yeah. Well, as far as getting you caught up to speed this week, I recommend taking a look at these interviews we mentioned, the conferences, and if you want to get on board. Now, phase 2, which you can be prepared for, is we have this project now moving toward a ready state of implementation just short of congressional funding. We're talking about a Harry Hopkins-style project, where Harry Hopkins, the labor man for FDR, sitting in the hallway, cup of coffee, pack of cigarettes, and within hours coming up with 100,000 jobs. We've got a little bit of an edge, as you could say, on these guys because, well...
And without the coffee and cigarettes.
We don't need that. This thing's ready to go because we've already know what the program's going to be. Now, if you take NAWAPA, look at it. It's got a certain functionality. You could even break it down into authorities like the Tennessee Valley Authority. A number of them managed by one control center, probably in Idaho. This project would put together, as Parsons themselves put forward through their detailed studies back through 1958 to 1964, a detailed study that this would involve directly 4 million directly and indirectly 4 million jobs for the United States. You look at all the tunnels, all the tunnel boring. They have the calculations on that. The amount of earth that has to be moved in earth in the reservoir site, all of the dam construction, all of the power stations, all the electrical equipment that has to be built for that, all of the concrete, aluminum, copper, steel. All of these things would create a massive amount of employment in the United States, which we can show mapped out where the labor force is going to have to come from, which state, which transportation routes this is going to come from. Essentially, we're going to show that we need you to build this part. We need you from this state to build this part. I think that sounds a lot better than the current program coming out of the White House.
Oh, you mean the program for a new dark age?
Yeah, exactly. But the point here is that we're not waiting around for some people out there sitting in government or other positions who they've been waiting to do a project like this and they're going to come in and handle it for us. There's no people like that who exist, because those people are actually waiting around for the perfect conditions, which will never come. Rather, this project is being put forward by us as the solution, and every step of the project, from finding the right people, how it's going to be implemented, having those discussions, mapping out everything, which a real government would be doing, all of those steps are being done by us.
Yeah, the real challenge is one of the imagination. People have to, instead of waiting to be given the guarantee that somehow the planets will align and this special group of people will finally say, yes, it may happen. No, is to say, this project is happening. What do we have to do to take responsibility to make sure that it can actually be carried forward? And, take as an example the interview by Joseph Montgomery recently, the geologist, where he goes through the advances in building, the advances in heavy construction, the advances in geological mapping that we've had in the last 40, 50 years since the origin of this project. The fact that, most importantly, the science driver principle, that when you actually begin to build, when you force the process through that wall of fire where you say, here's the problem, you've got to come up with a solution. Mm-hmm. As was the case during the Apollo program, that was the biggest benefit out of all of the things that were actually created in terms of tangible wealth, in terms of national pride, in terms of actually getting to the moon. Mm-hmm. Really the most important thing was the manifestation of this science driver principle, that you're going to force people to make new innovations, you're going to force them to make new discoveries, new technological advances, and it's going to come about in the actual process of solving these problems. Now, we have put forward what some of those problems are, what they're going to be. We're going to elaborate that even further. And this is a kind of a more than a thought experiment, but it's something which is, maybe it's a spiritual exercise as well, is to begin to initiate that change in culture, that change in mentality, that psychological and emotional change, which NAWAPA as a principle really represents. It's taking us into a new cultural platform for the planet. And as soon as people think they begin to have a grasp over it, it's always good to push yourself to the next level. And I think if people take a look at a video that was just posted, NAWAPA Cosmic Implications, Cody Jones really takes people to that next level of saying, well, this platform of initiating NAWAPA is going to now introduce a whole new quality of question, the relationship of the planet as a whole to larger cosmic space and galactic processes and planetary processes which become incorporated into the domain of conscious human action.
So at the end of a system like this, these are the kinds of things that make the way for a new civilization that can emerge, and we'll have a much different approach to nature. We have to carry along with us things from this old system, the better parts of it, the knowledge from the older generation, people right now in their 70s and 80s that need to be involved in building this program right now. So we invite you to help us make this program to be launched early in the new year, if not by the end of this year, and get caught up to speed quick, because we're going to be moving fast. So for today, I'm Michael Kirsch.
I'm Ouyang Teng.
Good day.